Okay, picture this. You're in Atlantic City.
Oh boy. Atlantic City.
Right. You've just finished a really long week of business meetings. You have some time to kill.
As you do.
Exactly. So you hit a local bar for a quiet drink. You meet someone, you get to talking, they seem perfectly nice, and they offer to buy you another round.
I think I know exactly where this is going.
You take a sip, and the next thing you know, everything goes completely black.
Yep.
You wake up hours later in a hotel bathtub. You're groggy, you're disoriented, but the bathtub isn't filled with water.
It's filled with ice.
Filled with ice, you look around, panic is totally setting in, and you see this note taped to the tile wall. Don't move. Call 911.
The classic kidney heist.
The kidney heist.
Yeah.
You call 911, the operator tells you to check your lower back for a tube, and surprise, one of your kidneys has been harvested by an organ trafficking ring.
It is basically a horror movie script.
It is. Now, here is the reality of that story. It is a complete fabrication. It's an urban legend.
It never happened.
Never happened. Not once. But I bet almost everyone listening right now has heard some version of it. It spreads like absolute wildfire. It sticks in your brain.
Because it's gruesome. It's
Yeah.
terrifying. You hear it, and you immediately want to tell your friends.
Right. Now, I want you to compare the incredibly sticky fake story to this. I'm going to read you a sentence from a real nonprofit strategic plan.
Oh, no. Brace yourselves.
Quote, comprehensive community building naturally lends itself to a return on investment rationale that can be modeled, drawing on existing practice.
And I've already stopped listening. I think my brain just shut down to protect itself.
It's just gone, right? It slid right off your brain like water off a duck.
Totally frictionless.
So here's the mission for this deep dive. We are looking at a stack of research on exactly why a ridiculous fake story about stolen kidneys survives and spreads effortlessly, while valid, deeply important strategic ideas, like that nonprofit statement, just die on the vine.
We're exploring the actual mechanics of stickiness.
Why do some ideas take hold, get remembered, and actually change behavior, while others just vanish into thin air? And we're going to give you a toolkit to fix those boring ideas.
And to do that, we're going to walk through what's called the SECCES framework. That's SUCCESS. It's a checklist for creating sticky ideas. But
before we get to the solution, we have to talk about the villain.
we do, because there is a very specific psychological reason why smart people communicate so badly.
It's a phenomenon called the curse of knowledge. And really, the best way to understand it is to look at this PhD study from Stanford back in 1990 by Elizabeth Newton. She designed this game called Tappers and Listeners.
This is such a deceptively simple experiment. I really love this one.
It's brilliant. So she assigns people to two groups, tappers and listeners. The tappers are given a list of 25 well-known songs. Classics like The Star-Spangled Banner or Happy Birthday.
Songs everyone knows.
Right. Their job is simply to tap out the rhythm of the song on a table using their knuckles. And the listener's job is just to guess the song.
So if I'm the tapper, I'm sitting there thinking, well, this is easy. I'm tapping Happy Birthday. Everyone knows that rhythm. Da-da-da-da-da.
Exactly. And in fact, before the experiment started, the tappers were asked to predict the success rate. Like, how often will the listeners guess correctly?
And they thought it would be high, right?
They thought the listeners would get it right about 50% of the time. They thought, I can hear it, so it must be obvious to you too.
But the actual results were just brutal.
So brutal.
The success rate wasn't 50%, it was 2.5%. Out of 120 songs tapped, the listeners only guessed 3 correctly.
That is a massive, massive disconnect. And here is why it happens. This is the actual curse. When a tapper taps, they are hearing the song playing in their head.
They hear the orchestration, the lyrics.
The melody, everything. But the listener, they don't have that internal soundtrack. They just hear a bunch of bizarre, disconnected taps on a table. It's like Morse code without the code key.
So the tapper is sitting there getting frustrated, thinking, how can you be so dense? It's the Star-Spangled Banner.
While the listener is literally just hearing noise.
Wow.
Precisely. Once you know something like the melody of the song or the intricate financial details of your business strategy, you literally cannot imagine what it is like not to know it.
I can't unhear the tune.
You can't. So when you communicate, you're tapping out a rhythm that makes perfect, crystal clear sense to you, but is total nonsense to your audience.
That is honestly a terrifying thought for anyone in leadership or marketing, or just anyone trying to get a point across. We are all tappers.
We are.
So this SECCES framework is essentially a checklist to help us defeat this curse of knowledge. Let's dive right into the first principle, which is simple.
Simple. Now, we have to be careful here. When we say simple, we absolutely do not mean dumbing it down.
Right. It's not about speaking in sound bites or talking to
No,
toddlers.
it's more about ruthless prioritization, finding the core.
Hmm.
The Army has a really great concept for this called commander's intent.
I love this concept because the Army knows better than anyone that no plan survives contact with the enemy.
Right.
You can give your soldiers a 10-page tactical plan, but once the bullets start flying and the weather changes and communications go down, that rigid plan is completely useless.
So instead of just giving them a step-by-step plan, they give the intent. My intent is to clear this hill of enemy forces.
Right.
If the soldiers know the core goal, that single overriding objective, they can improvise when the plan inevitably falls apart and still get the job done. It empowers people because the destination is clear, even if the route has to change.
So simple really means stripping an idea down to its absolute essence. A perfect business example of this is Southwest Airlines. For decades, their commander's intent, their core was just one phrase: the low-fare airline.
And that word, the each, is doing a ton of heavy lifting there.
It really is. There's this great story about Herb Kelleher, their former CEO, and a debate over chicken salad.
Oh yeah, the chicken salad decision.
Right. So a marketing executive, let's just call her Tracy, comes to Kelleher and suggests they start serving chicken salad on flights to improve customer satisfaction.
Which sounds totally reasonable.
It does. Passengers like food. It might boost the survey scores. But Kelleher doesn't ask if the salad tastes good. He asks a very specific question. He says, Tracy, does serving chicken salad help us be the low-fare airline?
And the answer, obviously, is no.
Exactly.
Because chicken salad costs money. It requires refrigeration and storage. It slows down the ground crews who have to clean the planes, which means fewer flights per day, which raises fares. So, no chicken salad.
That is the power of a simple core. It makes decision-making almost effortless for thousands of employees because the priority is just crystal clear.
It reminds me of the inverted pyramid concept in journalism. You don't bury the lead. You put the absolute most important thing at the very top. So if the editor cuts the bottom of the story, the main point still stands.
And if you want to get really sophisticated with this, look at Proverbs. A bird in the hand is worth two in the bush. That is actually a highly complex economic concept about risk aversion and opportunity cost, but it's boiled down to a single sentence that has survived for centuries.
That's what we're aiming for here. You want to create the proverb of your industry.
Okay, so we've stripped the idea down to the core. We know exactly what we want to say, but we live in an incredibly noisy world. How do we get people to even look at our idea in the first place?
That brings us to the second principle in the framework, unexpected.
Unexpected.
This is all about breaking the pattern. You see, humans are basically guessing machines. We go through our entire lives using schemas, these internal mental scripts of how things are supposed to go based on our past experience.
Like going to a restaurant. You sit down, you expect a menu, you order. That's a schema.
Exactly. And if you want someone's attention, you have to break that guessing machine. You have to violate their schema.
There's a classic TV commercial for the Enclave minivan that does this perfectly. It starts out like literally every single car ad you've ever seen. The family is piling into the van, the dad is driving, they're chatting about the cup holders.
It's totally boring.
So boring. You think you know exactly what's coming, the smooth voiceover, the least terms.
You are firmly in your car commercial schema. Your brain goes on autopilot because you've seen this script 1,000 times.
And then, wham. The car gets violently T-boned by a speeding vehicle at an intersection. The screen just goes black.
It's so jarring.
And the text comes up on the screen. Didn't see that coming. No one ever does.
Okay.
It turns out it's not a car ad at all. It's a safety PSA about wearing seatbelts.
It completely shocks you because it broke the pattern. That is the element of surprise. But here's the catch with surprise. It's fleeting. You can't just jump scare people all day to keep their attention.
Right, surprise gets them to look, but how do you keep them looking?
To keep attention, you need interest. And the best way to generate interest is through something called the gap theory of curiosity.
The gap theory. This frames curiosity as almost a form of pain, right? Like a mental itch you can't scratch.
In a way, yes. It's the pain of a knowledge gap. As humans, we have a visceral need to know the answer when we realize we're missing something. So to keep people hooked, you have to open a gap in their knowledge before you close it.
Like reading a mystery novel. Who killed the butler? You keep reading at 2 in the morning because you simply have to fill that gap.
Precisely. Rooney Arledge, who totally revolutionized sports broadcasting with NCAA football, used this masterfully. Before the game even started, he wouldn't just show the field and start calling plays.
What would he do?
He'd talk about the rivalry, the history between the towns, the stakes for the coaches. He'd make you ask who is going to win this massive grudge match. He created the gap before showing you a single second of football.
And most corporate presentations do the exact opposite of this.
Oh, they are the worst offenders. They start right with the answer. Here are the Q3 results. Boom. It removes all curiosity instantly.
So instead of that, you should say something like, there is one number in our Q3 results that threatens our entire strategy for next year. Let's look at what it is.
Yes. Now I've opened a gap. Now you're leaning in. What's the number I need to know?
Another really great example of the unexpected comes from the B2B and retail side, Nordstrom. They are famous for customer service, but honestly, good service is a really boring, abstract concept.
It's completely expected.
Right. So Nordstrom relies on stories that aggressively break the schema of what a department store should do. Like the story of their employees who ironed a customer's shirt in the store before a big meeting.
Or the ultimate one, the tire chains.
Oh, I love the tire chains story. Walk us through that.
Okay, so a customer comes into a Nordstrom store to return a set of tire chains.
Which is crazy because Nordstrom doesn't sell tires?
Right. They don't sell tires. They don't sell car parts. They are a high-end clothing and department store. Most retail stores would just say, "Sir, you didn't buy those here. We can't help you." But the Nordstrom clerk accepted the return and actually gave the customer a refund.
That is completely irrational from a purely financial business standpoint, but it is brilliant branding.
It violates the schema of a store's return policy so aggressively that it becomes legendary. It proves their commitment to the customer is truly unexpected. It creates a story that people end up talking about for decades.
Okay, moving on. We have simple and unexpected. The third principle is concrete. And this feels like the direct antidote to that comprehensive community-building gibberish we heard in the start.
Absolutely. Because experts love abstraction. They love talking about strategic frameworks and paradigm shifts and synergies.
Yeah.
But human brains are wired for sensory information, things we can actually see, touch, or feel.
There's a concept they talk about called the Velcro theory of memory.
Right. Think of your brain as having a bunch of little loops on one side, like a piece of Velcro. The idea you're trying to communicate needs to have hooks. The more sensory hooks an idea has, visual, emotional, tactile, weak, the better it sticks to those loops.
So comprehensive community building is basically a Teflon block. Zero hooks. It just slides right off.
But a kidney thief in a hotel room with an ice bath, that has 100 hooks. You can see the ice. You can feel the cold tile on your back. You can imagine the tube.
Let's look at a rewrite example for this. Say you are trying to teach a math concept. You could be abstract and talk about calculating the remaining variable in a subtraction set.
And everyone is instantly asleep.
Right, I'm already zoning out.
Or you could do what a lot of really effective Asian math teachers do. They make it intensely concrete. You have 10 cents. You go to the store and buy a notebook for 6 cents. How much do you have left?
It's the exact same math, but now I can visualize the coins in my hand. I could see the notebook. It's tangible.
Another incredibly powerful example of this is oral rehydration therapy. This is a life-saving treatment for severe dehydration in developing nations.
But the medical explanation for it is incredibly dry. It's all about electrolyte imbalances and intestinal mucous membranes and osmosis.
Which is completely abstract. So how do you make that sticky for the masses?
Yeah.
James Grant from UNICEF did it perfectly. He didn't show a scientific chart. He literally pulled a small packet out of his pocket, just a little plastic bag filled with a pinch of salt and sugar.
He made it physical.
Yes.
Yeah.
He held it up and said, "This costs less than a cup of tea, and it can save a child's life."
That is deeply concrete. You see the packet. You immediately know the cost because everyone knows what a cup of tea costs. It turns this complex medical abstraction into a physical, understandable reality.
It's the exact same reason the Nature Conservancy shifted their messaging. They stopped talking about preserving 2 million acres of land, which is a number way too big for anyone to visualize.
Right. What does 2 million acres even look like?
You can't picture it. So they started talking about bucks and acres. They said, put your money here and you will save this specific forest, this specific valley. They essentially turned local landscapes into eco-celebrities.
So we've got the idea, simple, unexpected, and concrete. But none of that matters if people don't believe it. Which leads us to the fourth principle, credible.
Credible.
And usually we think credibility just means getting a famous expert or a celebrity to endorse your idea.
Right. Get a doctor in a lab coat. But most of us don't have Stephen Hawking or Oprah on speed dial. The good news is you don't always need them. There are other ways to build trust, and one of my absolute favorites is the Sinatra test.
If I can make it there, I'll make it anywhere.
Exactly. If you have one single example that is so extreme and so strong that it establishes absolute credibility, just use that. There's an Indian logistics company called Safe Express. They were trying to convince B2B clients that they could handle safe, on-time, secure delivery across India. They didn't show a bunch of safety charts or reliability statistics. They just told people, we handle the distribution of the Harry Potter books.
Oh, wow. That is a high-stakes delivery.
Released at 8 a.m. sharp across the entire country. Massive security risks with leaks, massive media attention. If they can handle the logistics of the Harry Potter launch without a single leak or delay, they can definitely handle shipping your toasters.
That's brilliant. That one example does all the heavy lifting for them. You don't need a certificate of quality. You just need that one killer case study.
Another technique for credibility is testable credentials. Let the audience test the idea themselves. Think of the old Wendy's "Where's the beef" ads.
Oh, yeah.
They didn't just claim their burgers were bigger. They invited you to look at the bun-to-meat ratio of their competitors for yourself. Try before you buy.
Or the NBA rookie orientation. This is a much heavier example, but it's incredibly powerful.
It really is.
The league wanted to warn these young, rich, invincible athletes about the real risks of HIV and AIDS. Now, they could have just shown them a PowerPoint with statistics about infection rate.
But stats slide right off.
Yeah.
Especially when you're 21 and you feel completely invincible.
Right. So instead, they brought in a woman to speak to them. She was attractive, she was charismatic, she told them all about her life, her sexual history with players. She seemed exactly like the women they were meeting at clubs every single night.
And then, at the very end of her talk, she revealed that she had AIDS.
It was a reality check they could literally see with their own eyes. It shattered their feeling of invincibility because she wasn't a statistic on a screen. She was a real person standing in the room with them.
Sometimes you can even use an anti-authority. We normally think of a doctor as the ultimate authority on health. But think of Pam Laffin.
Who was she?
She was a smoker who developed severe emphysema in her 20s. She appeared in a series of really famous anti-smoking commercials.
Ah, right. She wasn't a doctor lecturing you about lung capacity. She was the actual victim.
Her raspy voice, her physical scars, they were vastly more credible than any Surgeon General's warning. It was just raw, verifiable truth.
Which bridges us perfectly to the fifth principle, emotional. Because that NBA example and Pam Laffin, they didn't just make those audiences believe the message. It made them care.
And that is the ultimate goal. Belief isn't enough to drive action. You need to make people care. And interestingly, the biggest enemy of caring is actually the analytical hat.
The analytical hat, explain that.
There was this fascinating study involving Rokia, who was a starving 7-year-old girl in Africa. When researchers showed people her photo and told her specific personal story, people donated very generously to help her.
Makes sense. It's heartbreaking.
But in another group, they showed people statistics about starvation in Africa first. Millions of people suffering, crop failures, systemic issues. And then they showed them Rokia.
And what happened?
Donations actually dropped.
Wait, really? So giving people more data, giving them the full scale of the problem, made them less charitable?
Yes. Because statistics engage the analytical part of your brain. And when you are calculating, you aren't feeling. Mother Teresa put it so perfectly. She said, if I look at the mass, I will never act. If I look at the one, I will.
Wow.
To make ideas sticky, you have to focus on the one, not the mass.
But how do we do that in a normal business context? I mean, we can't always show a picture of a starving child when we're just trying to sell B2B software or pitch a new workflow.
True. In business, you have to appeal to self-interest. But not just the basic Maslow's basement stuff like safety or a minor bonus. You have to appeal to identity. Who does the listener perceive themselves to be?
The Don't Mess with Texas campaign is the classic case study here.
It is the gold standard.
Yeah.
Texas had a massive littering problem on their highways. They tried putting up signs talking about fines. Didn't work.
People don't care about fines.
They tried talking about environmental duty and keeping nature clean. Didn't work. The people littering, mostly young men, didn't identify as environmentalists. So the state changed tactics. They made it about identity.
They hired tough Texas football players and local celebrities.
Right. They had them smash beer cans on camera and say, "Don't mess with Texas."
The subtext wasn't, "Please keep the highway clean." The subtext was, "Real Texans don't dump trash on their own state."
And that shift to identity changed the behavior completely. Littering dropped massively. But if you're ever struggling to find that emotional core for your own idea, there's a really tactical tool you can use called the 3 Whys.
Walk us through how that works.
Take the Murray Drainoff Duo Piano Group. They were an arts organization struggling to get funding and support. Their initial pitch was basically, we preserve duo piano music.
Which frankly sounds incredibly niche. Why should I, as a donor, care about that?
Exactly. So you ask them, well, why is that important? And they say, because it preserves a unique musical style.
Still pretty dry.
So you ask the second why. Why is that important? Well, because it allows for a level of collaboration between artists in a way that solo performances just don't.
Getting warmer.
Then you ask the third why. Why is that important? Because we are preserving a heritage of profound cultural collaboration.
And there it is. Suddenly, it's not just about 2 people playing the piano. It's about humanity, connection, and culture. You went 3 layers deep to find the actual emotional hook.
Correct. You just keep asking why until you hit a universal human value.
All right, we are at the final letter in the SCCES framework. Stories. And I really feel like this is where everything comes together.
Stories are essentially flight simulators for the brain. I think that's the best definition we can use. When you hear a compelling story, your brain actually lights up in the same modules as if you were physically experiencing the events yourself.
So it provides a simulation of how to act.
Correct. Look at Jared from Subway.
Oh, the guy who lost all the weight eating sandwiches.
Right. That campaign wasn't created by some genius ad agency in a boardroom. It was a story that a franchisee spotted in the wild. It's a classic challenge plot. You have an underdog who faces a massive obstacle, severe obesity, and he overcomes it using a very specific tool: Subway sandwiches.
So the message isn't just a clinical Subway is low fat, it's an emotional simulation. Here is exactly how you can change your life.
And this works just as well in highly technical B2B settings too. There's a fascinating study about Xerox repairmen. They spend their lunch breaks standing around the water cooler, just swapping stories. One guy says, oh, I went to a call and the machine showed an E053 error, but it turned out it was actually a fried circuit board causing a false read.
Management probably looks at that and calls it goofing off.
Right, they see it as unproductive chap. But actually, those repairmen are building a shared database of complex solutions. If I hear your story about the misleading error code today, and then I encounter that exact same weird problem next week.
You already have a mental simulation of how to solve it. You don't have to start from scratch.
Exactly. Contrast that rich, useful story with a typical corporate slogan like, keep lines of communication open.
It means absolutely nothing. It's totally abstract.
But a specific story about a floor worker who prevented a massive plant explosion because he felt safe enough to bypass his manager and tell the site director about a gas leak. That story actually teaches you how to act.
It provides the script for action. Stories provide the context that abstractions always leave out.
Precisely.
Okay, let's unpack this whole SCCES checklist one last time for everyone listening. We have simple, unexpected, concrete, credible, emotional, and stories.
And remember, this is not a rigid formula where you have to cram all 6 elements into every single short email. It's a diagnostic tool to fix broken ideas.
Like the idea clinic concept. Let's do a quick A/B test to wrap this up. Let's say the topic is sun exposure and sunscreen. Message A is comprehensive data suggests that skin phenotypes are susceptible to cumulative solar radiation damage.
I'm asleep again. That fails almost every single check. It's completely abstract. It's not emotional. It's definitely not simple. It is full of tapper jargon.
Now, message B. Your skin remembers every burn.
Oh, that is so much stickier. It's simple. Yeah. It's concrete because you can literally feel the memory of a sunburn. And it's highly emotional. It sounds ominous, almost like you have a permanent record. It sticks.
And the true beauty of this entire framework is that you don't have to be a creative genius to use it. You just need to be a collector.
That is the real takeaway here. You can train yourself to spot sticky ideas out in the world. You can spot the Jared story in your own customer base. You can spot the Star-Spangled Banner problem in your next slide deck. It's just about taking off that expert hat for a minute and looking at your message from the perspective of the listener.
So here's a provocation for everyone listening to mull over. The audience always gets a vote. You can design the most perfect, beautiful, well-researched strategic plan in the world, but if the audience can't remember it or if they twist it into something else, they win.
Leo DeRocher, the old baseball manager, learned this the hard way. He made this very nuanced, rambling comment to the press about how the nice guys on the opposing team were currently sitting in last place.
And the press completely turned it into the famous, quote, Nice guys finish last.
Which wasn't exactly what he said.
No, it wasn't.
And he hated it at first. He tried to correct them. But eventually he embraced it, because that is the version that stuck. It captured the core truth of his idea way better than his rambling sentence ever did. Sometimes you just have to let the audience edit your idea.
But that raises an interesting thought, doesn't it? As you learn to use these tools, remember that stickiness itself is morally neutral. The kidney heist used the exact same psychological playbook as the life-saving hydration packet. The architecture of belief is the same whether the idea is deeply true or completely false. So the real question isn't just how to make your idea stick, but whether your idea is actually worth sticking in the first place.
That's a phenomenal point. The tools work. You have to decide what to build with them.
Exactly. So next time you are drafting an email or prepping for a presentation, or honestly, even just trying to convince your kids to do something, stop. Take off your expert hat. Don't be a tapping out a rhythm only you can hear.
Run it through the checklist. Is it concrete? Is there a story? Help the listeners hear the music.
And that is how you make it stick. Thanks for taking this deep dive with us.
See you next time.